Okay, so in this video, we're covering how to install the system that added just over 1 million in ARR in under 7 months for a B2B company. So we're talking about the proven protocol that is going to turn strangers into buyers basically over and over again. So it's going to convince strangers to buy your stuff over and over again. So it's pretty crazy in terms of just looking at the situation that with all these appointment setting agencies, all these outsourced business development companies, that getting more leads and getting more clients is still one of the by far the biggest bottlenecks in 90% of the businesses I talk to. Maybe at some point we decide and agree that the old way of doing it might not be working as well as it used to. So this whole thing where you just send out a million cold emails or just do whatever you guys are doing at the moment is not the way to do it. But I'm going to cover a bit more on that later. I think by now it should honestly be pretty clear that cracking market message resonance to cold traffic, meaning that you can get your ideal customers to perk up and get interested after being a complete stranger, is probably one of the hardest in all of business, because you see that over 90% of companies fail without solving it. So they fail to be able to convince a stranger to get interested in their stuff. Maybe that's because if you can crack it, you can unlock unlimited potential and scale. So as soon as you can do this and you can take any stranger off the street who's in your ideal customer profile and convince them to buy your stuff, you basically have the ability to continually double down until you reach your operational limit, instead of just wondering where your next clients are going to come from month over month over month. In 2023 and 2024, a lot of businesses just need more leads, like I said before. So they need to get more people interested in buying their stuff. They need to have more conversations with customers to figure out exactly what their customers want. And they need to be getting more qualified leads who are actually in the market to buy their stuff, instead of just wasting all of their time on tire kickers. Whether someone just needs to find product market fit, whether they're not advertising enough, whether they've just got a bad offer, or if they just can't define their ideal customer, whatever it is, most businesses just haven't cracked the code yet, and very few of them even know why. And to be honest, it's not really your fault. If I was a technical co-founder, if I was a product-based founder with no background in sales, I wouldn't know what to do either. There's a lot of noise out there right now in the get more clients market. If you think about it, it is kind of stupid. So how often do you email a complete stranger and then 20 minutes later, they're just begging to give you thousands of dollars per month? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It would be pretty, it would be pretty rare. It'd be pretty cool if you could just do this and you could just say, hey, buy my stuff, and people would just do it. But unfortunately, that's not the case, as you probably know if you're watching this video. The other common solution I see is that some guru group program course and stuff, they just add you to Slack and then never speak to you again, which is just not ideal either. Honestly, neither of those things sound any good to me. So that's basically why I'm making a completely new hybrid model. This isn't a course. This isn't where I'm just going to teach you how to do something. This is where I'm just going to hand you a working playbook. So you don't need us. You don't need any other agency ever again. I'm not going to, run any sort of guru stuff. This is just done for you. I'm going to give you the system, and it's going to be super, super easy. So I'm going to cover a bit more on the exact process in a second. But before we do that, we're going to need to cover a few keys to success that are going to be super important if you want this to work at all in the first place. What you have to know is that right now there are a ton of lead generation and outsourced business development companies. If you haven't seen your email inbox for the last 20 years, then you probably won't know. But if you have sat in your email inbox for more than 5 seconds at a time, you're going to know that there are tons of people emailing you trying to get your attention. So it's really, really hard to, number one, succeed with that type of business model, and number two, differentiate yourself if you do want to take that business model. Quite frankly, after you see this, a lot of these lead generation and business development companies' entire business models are going to be completely broken. Essentially, what we're covering in this video is revealing how you can build your own client acquisition system, not a lead acquisition system, for yourself, and also why you'll need to focus on the actual structure of the business itself in order to generate leads at scale, which is actually the reason why a lot of these outsourced appointment setting companies fail to get results. So what we're talking about is how you can pivot the actual structure of your business to help you get clients rather than just sending a million emails and trying to get leads. It's a very, very different thing. One of them contributes to year-on-year, month-on-month growth, and one of them contributes to, I don't even know, just wasting money and wasting everyone's time. What you have to know is that it's not always about sending more emails. It's often about not spending more money on ads. It's not always about writing better copy. It's not always about creating a machine that's fundamentally more efficient than before. You've probably done this before. You've probably been in that boat where you're like, we just need to do more volume. But that's not typically what actually creates results, not what really breaks you through that gap between when you're selling to your network or you're selling to people that know you compared to when you're selling to cold customers and getting them to buy your stuff. What this requires is a merging of advertising, sales, product, and unit economics all in one to create a system that is typically more efficient than before. Because the reality is getting clients is a problem that can only be solved in-house, like I said, with the merging of advertising, sales, product, and economics. At least when going from 0 to 1. So any agency, a lot of the time, they're going to tell you that they're delivering an optimal solution, but in reality, it's very difficult. And I'll go a little bit off script here. The reason that this is not optimal is because if you're going from 0 to 1 and you don't have a defined process for outreach, it is going to take a ridiculous amount of calories to go ahead and crack that outbound. So cracking outbound and cracking cold is a very, very tough it's a tough endeavor. And if someone is going to go ahead and crack this, number one, they need to set expectations very, very clearly that getting this done is going to be difficult because it's a problem that is worth multiple millions of dollars to the right person. And number two, a lot of agencies shouldn't even be delivering that solution. They should be saying, hey, this isn't a fit because it's going to take too long to get results and you're going to spend too much of your own money trying to crack this and getting someone else to do it, when in reality, what you need to be doing in this phase is spending almost all of your time creating an optimal solution and becoming an absolute rainmaker for your own business. This isn't something that can be just passed off to some junior rep at an agency. It requires a very tight feedback loop. And like I said, it also requires you to be across advertising, across sales, across products, and across economics as well. So you can figure out what you actually have to sell to these people. The problem is that very few people actually know how to do this, and very few people know how to actually set something like this up. The good news that I'll give you is that it takes a very, very long time to get off the ground, but it takes more energy to get it off the ground than it does to continually run it. Like I said, once you have cracked this outbound prospecting, this cold client acquisition, you can basically go as far as you want in business. The thing is that when you're doing this, you either end up paying an agency a fat retainer for months and months and months, and then once they crack it, they're on the same retainer that you had them on at the start. So you ideally would pay someone really highly in order to crack the outbound prospecting, to be able to crack the system. But that's actually a very separate problem to maintaining the system. So once it's ready and maintained, it's really just a matter of maintenance, updating the system, making sure nothing breaks, et cetera, compared to when you're cracking it. It's a very, very difficult thing. So when you're cracking it, you're probably going to pay someone a lot of money. They're going to spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, or you're going to do it yourself and it's going to take you a lot of energy. And then as soon as it's cracked, it's really just a matter of making sure nothing breaks. So if you're still paying someone a lot of cash, or if you're still doing it yourself for a lot of the time, it's a very, very separate issue. I'm hoping this makes sense. What you want to do is avoid having someone cashing in fat retainers for no reason or cashing in checks for no reason. And you want to avoid using an unoptimized playbook. And you don't really want to have to rely on an agency for your client acquisition anyway, unless you would rather just have someone else do the management piece where they're making sure nothing breaks. Realistically, an agency should not be validating your client acquisition systems because it is your job. And realistically, if you do want to get an agency, you're probably going to just have them manage the systems using their expertise in the first place, or you're going to pay someone a lot of cash to tighten that feedback loop. That's going to be a very expensive endeavor. So if you've never acquired customers from cold to sold, it really should be your biggest focus to figure that out, because that's where all the scale is. Otherwise, you're probably going to burn months and months of your time and be out of a bunch of cash while an agency tries to get results for you. But that timeline is going to be so extended because it requires such a tight feedback loop. When you're out in the market trying to figure out what is going to work for you, it really isn't something that can be just looked at a couple hours a week. When you're going out and trying to figure out how are we going to sell this thing to cold, it's something that needs to be constantly monitored and then managed with data-driven decisions. So like you can imagine, that is a very expensive thing for an agency to do. If an agency wants to come in and crack cold outbound, like I said again, it is a very separate thing compared to if an agency is going to come in and just manage a system or update a system for you that is already working. I'm hoping that makes sense. If you have questions about it, obviously, just message me, email me, whatever it is. But that's something that I absolutely have to instill in you. Cracking outbound and maintaining advertising is a very separate thing compared to cracking it in the first place. It's a difference between product market fit and scaling phase. It's a very different thing. Within that validation phase, like I said, the feedback loop has to be so tight that it must be the job of either the founder or a trusted senior employee. An agency should not be doing that, simply put, unless they are coming in on a really, really high retainer as a trusted senior employee. They have to be doing things daily. It needs to be covered daily. This is a thing that you cannot leave days apart. The further apart the feedback loop, the longer it's going to take to iterate, and it's going to take months and months and months instead of, maybe a couple of months. like I said, an agency, it's very unlikely to have the bandwidth to do that. So any smart agency owner is probably going to either disqualify you or charge you a lot of money for that. And if they do charge you a lot of money, they're going to set the expectation that it's going to take a while to get results. The problem is, one, most agencies can't say no, which leads to them closing people they shouldn't. And that eventually leaves everyone worse off. And number two, that it's very difficult to do it in the first place. So even if those agencies did know how to do it, then it would be, it'd be a different story. Once it's fully built, like I said, it takes a few hours per week to maintain. So the reason agencies can't do this is because they're too focused on getting new clients, and they struggle to understand each of their clients' ideal customers to the level of detail that they need in order to sell to them while they're cold. So they can't actually go out and validate this process. What they would rather do is probably just use, a junior VA, virtual assistant, something like that, to manage a system that's already working and take the credit for it, which is kind of a tough thing to do. Realistically, I think you just need to be running it yourself. I've done the test. It takes between 20 to 40 hours per week to get the maximum results when running this, validating this on cold. So that's something that pretty much has to be run by the founder in the 0 to 1 stages, or at least by someone who's very, very committed to one singular funnel. Focusing on 10, 20, 30 funnels at once is an absolute death wish, because you have to have such a certain intimacy with the customer that it simply just does not work if you're going to do it with someone else. It's very, very crucial that you do this yourself or senior employee or with some type of system. But like I said, instead of just giving you a bunch of theory about getting more clients and more customers for your business, what I'm going to do is just give you basically the exact system that we use to take one of our partners from 0 to over 83K in MRR. That's about $1 million in ARR, added in less than 12 months. I think it was about 7 months. So we've done this for ourselves. We've also done this for some other clients as well. We've generated a few $100,000 in MRR within that exact same time period. So this is pretty valuable stuff. And this is basically real time 2023. This is stuff that has just recently been done. This isn't something where we went back and grew a company in 2017 or something like that. This is real time from the market in the trenches. So the things that you have to note here is that there are a couple of things that will prevent you from succeeding. Number one is operations. You really have to have dialed in operations. Number two is a lack of clarity. So if you don't know exactly what you need to be doing, you don't know what your tasks are going to be needed to be done. So how are you going to do them with absolute execution? It's very, very, very difficult. The third one is that. So it's an execution bottleneck. A lot of people just struggle to work hard these days, whether it be to, TikTok or whatever it is. People just struggle to sit down and do the work. So that's another thing you want to be aware of. Another thing that you're going to need to be aware of is a skill issue, because a lot of people just don't know how to do this, and it's not anyone's fault specifically, but it is just something that's a very unique skill set, and you're going to need to learn how to do these sort of things in order to do it. So just keep that in mind. Another thing is in environment. So if you're in an environment with a negative family, negative friends, whatever it is, it's going to be very, very difficult to go out and take the feedback from the market that might be negative. Because what happens is when you're going out and selling this thing to cold, people are going to tell you no. They're going to give you really bad feedback at times. You're going to have to be able to take that feedback and not feel like you're getting completely rejected from society. So if you're already in a situation that's not ideal, it's going to be really, really tough. Another thing is health. So if you don't have your health, you don't have your energy, your time isn't worth much because you can't actually execute during that time. So that kind of comes under the execution bottlenecks. And then cope. Cope is basically just means coping mechanism. And what people cope about is that they don't have time to do this, because people will say they don't have time to validate a system like this. You must have time. There is literally nothing else that is going to be more valuable in your business than getting a customer and turning them from a stranger into a customer. Like, there is nothing else that even matters. You can say product, you can say whatever it is, but if you can't go and take a stranger, your enterprise value is completely shot compared to if you can take a cold stranger into a customer. It's absolutely ridiculous how different it is. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is the only thing you should be focusing on in your business. If you haven't sold customers cold to sold reliably in a row, multiple times in a row, you absolutely have to be focusing on this. I cannot stress it enough, because relying on referrals is essentially just waiting to die. So you're going to run out of people that know you at some stage, or you're going to get forced to get famous, or you're just going to go out of business. There are no other options, basically. Relying on referrals is unpredictable and unreliable. It's that simple. Of course, you want to get referrals. That's a very good thing to get referrals. But if you want sustained growth and you want reliable growth, there will be a day where you're forced to scale up on cold traffic. You might as well just rip the Band-Aid off. You just have to know that, because something you might have learned the hard way already is that leads and clients don't just fall from the sky. You need to put in the work and do high amounts of volume in order to get these leads and clients to come to you. The process of getting this done is going to add millions and millions in revenue, in genuine revenue, and even more in enterprise value. So if you had investors and you say, hey, I just figured out a system that's going to get me clients over and over and over again, predictably for XYZ amount of time, they will genuinely beg to give you money compared to when you go to them without a method of getting customers. It is that simple. If you can go to your investors and say, hey, this is how well we've figured out how to profitably acquire a customer. Our payback period is low. Our cost is low. Our LTV is high. This is how good our unit economics are. Bang, 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 bang. All of a sudden, how easy is that raise going to be? It's going to be crazy compared to if you're just still trying to figure it out. Something else you have to know is that if you were to double the amount of leads you got, whilst increasing the quality of those leads, i.e. how close they are to your ideal customer profile, while paying less for each of those leads, if that would noticeably have an impact on your business, a noticeable amount, then it's probably a good thing that you watch this video. If it wouldn't, it's fine that you would click off this video and it's probably not that important. But right now, what we're going to cover is the protocol for exactly how we do this. The first thing we need to cover is the first principle. So the first principles are, what is an actual offer? What are we delivering to these people? The offer is essentially the goods and services that you agree to provide or give, how you accept payment, and the terms of the agreement. Basically, it's you give us X, we will give you Y. And it is what begins the process of getting customers and making money. So it's the first thing that any new customer will interact with in your business. It's very key. Let's just note that down. Get that out of the way. The next thing is, what is a lead? A lead is basically someone who you can get to buy your stuff. So someone that you can reach out to. Now, once you have this lead, you need to focus on what to do with the lead. So the focus with these leads that you get, so the people you can reach out to, should always be on progressing them to the quote unquote next step, not to rush and try to sell them stuff. So the process looks something like getting the lead's attention, turning that attention into interest, turning that interest into trust, and turning that trust into sales opportunities, and turning those sales opportunities into closed customers and clients. So I'm going to cover this in a bit more depth a little bit later, but it's very important that you understand not to rush this process. So you have a lead, you want to get their attention, you want to get their interest, you want to get their trust, you want to get the opportunity, then you want to close them as a client. You don't want to get their attention and try to sell them 5 minutes later. That's just not how things work. What we need to understand is that business concepts, offers, leads, and sales all integrate with each other when you're trying to grow, because the reasons that you can't grow are likely one of these: not enough leads, not enough qualified leads, no way of getting people engaged in terms of getting those leads engaged. You have a bad niche, you have a bad offer, you spend all your energy trying to sell directly, but can't convince a person who is cold to buy your stuff because you aren't super good at persuasion. I get it. You have no way of finding and nurturing those lower awareness leads into your long-term pipeline. You don't have enough technical skill because you're not an expert in sales and that sales tech and lead generation, all this stuff, because why would you be? And that last one is that the business structure affects the offer, which impacts how many leads you get, which impacts how many you can handle, which therefore impacts how many sales you'll make and how much you can grow. Does that make sense? So the business structure and the actual cohesion of these things is the thing that is going to prevent you from growing or allow you to grow like absolute crazy. Because there is a model that I'll discuss in a second that essentially guarantees hypergrowth. So let me get to it. Essentially what we need to know is that growing a business entails just simply selling people stuff they want to buy and then doing it a lot. So if you want to hit 100K a month added, you need to go out and get 25 clients. You need to go and convince 25 strangers to give you $4,000 a month. So how do you get 25 clients? You want to book 100 sales calls and close at 25%. So you need to book 100 calls. So how do I book 100 calls? You need to get the interest and the trust of 100 people. So if you think about it in that fashion, it just sort of reverse engineers it and makes it a little bit more achievable. Then when you look at something where it's more of a customer-based thing, you might have a software. 100K a month is 1,000 customers at $100 a month. So how do you get 1,000 customers? You need to send 100,000 people to a landing page or a webinar that converts at 1%. So the keys to the castle here, you can see, are finding and converting leads and then giving them outsized value so you can get more leads. Basically, your whole company is revolving around the ability to get leads and convert them at scale. So these strangers, that's what I've been talking about. So the thing is, after consulting and working with over 300 B2B companies via my own clients and my clients' clients, it is actually quite rare that someone has an offer problem or a sales problem. Obviously this happens, and like I've been saying, the cohesion is really important. But in terms of not being able to sell at least some stuff to cold prospects, they typically think that it's an offer or sales problem, but most of the time it's just that they struggle to generate enough interest in terms of who they're actually talking to. So note that I said interest. So I'm not talking about buying a lead list from something like Apollo or Zoom Info. I'm talking about people that have an intent to solve a problem and the budget to pay for it. So I've worked extensively on building these types of conversion mechanisms like funnels and sales processes, etc. But honestly, 90% of the time, people just need to get someone interested in their stuff as a step one first principles thing. Because if no one is interested in your stuff, nothing else really matters and you're not going to grow anyway. So it doesn't matter how good your conversion mechanisms are. You need to focus on getting that interest as the first step. And look, if you don't want to really grow, that's completely fine. And you can be added to the people that change their goals and their dreams to suit what they thought was possible rather than what they dreamt could be true. So that's something to note. You don't want to change your dreams, guys. This stuff is possible. You just need to convert the lead to the interest to the attention, et cetera, like I discussed before. What you need to know is that if one sales rep does 100 calls and closes 30, he then gets beaten by the sales rep who takes 300 calls and closes 50. Not because of a skill gap or an ability to convert at a higher percentage of calls, but because the second sales rep does more work. They put in more volume so he collects more cash, even if his conversion metrics were a little bit lower. And over time, what happens is the person doing more volume is able to iterate much, much faster and get much quicker than the first person. They get better much quicker. So over time, the second rep will absolutely dominate. And I can tell you that below 1 million ARR, you just need to be doing more volume a lot of the time. Above 1 million ARR, it's typical that you want to be pouring a lot of fuel in the fire and scaling something that's already working, and obviously converting a high percentage of leads that you're already bringing in. But to be honest, you don't need more volume if it's not actually already working. So the only reason you need to do a high volume of outreach ads or anything is that you haven't figured out what's working and you're trying to figure it out fast. So you're trying to get that conversion cycle really, really quickly iterated, or you have something that's working and you're already scaling it. So the way I see this is typically you have two options. So option one is what most people do. So most people spend all of their energy trying to convert cold leads, which is really, really hard. So they harass people, they spam ads, or they get met with horrible KPIs. They can't generate any interest and everyone kind of thinks they're a spammer. And if they do end up booking any calls, they kind of end up just talking to freezing cold leads that are just trying to gather information. So what ends up happening is they have to, number one, rely on getting really good at persuading people from freezing cold to totally sold. Number two, they build a killer sales team and they spend a lot of money doing this. And then they have to use Jedi mind hacks to close people, for lower ticket retainers than what they could be. Then they need to give a crazy guarantee, which puts pressure on their fulfillment team. They need to compete really hard. They need to get copious amounts of case studies. They need to get bullied on most of their sales calls and waste a lot of time with unqualified buyers. And then they need to send a metric ton of outbound emails just to try and find someone that is in their conversion window, which, spoiler alert, is less than 3% of people in a good market. That's if it's a good market. While everyone else basically tells you to kick rocks. So that's at least 97% of the people that don't want to talk to you. Now, the second option, which I think is the better option, they focus on creating more warm leads so you can easily build trust at scale. Now, this is less hard, so you can get more people to know, like, and trust you and your company by creating valuable content that sells them on your services at the same time, and then drive traffic to that content, via cold outbound advertising, because building a brand takes too long. So what you can do is you can actually make this content, and then instead of waiting years and years and years for the algorithms to take care of you, you can just drive traffic to that content via outbound and advertising. So while your brand's building up, you can get the fast money with the cold outbound and the ads, and you can get the long money by building the brand. So doing it this way, you can actually close deals easily and without confrontation. No time wasted selling on sales calls, and you can basically just become an order taker where only people that basically want to buy are the ones booking calls. So to do this, there are a few options. Number one is that you can become a social media influencer by making funny cat videos. Number two is that you can spend months talking to customers on calls and hours becoming their friends. Or number three is that you can leverage the system and the method, which I'm about to cover in just 1 second. So before we get into it, again, we're still sort of drawing this out a little bit more. So before we get into it, understand this. Most offers are not seen as inherently valuable due to market awareness. So most people don't care about what you're selling, and they cannot actually perceive the value that you're driving. So most offers are people saying something like, hey, we have this thing that's really valuable. It's called broccoli. It's going to help you live longer, and I'll give it to you for free. Like, please, take my stuff, take my broccoli. But in reality, nobody wants to eat broccoli. It doesn't matter if the broccoli is going to make them more healthy. The broccoli is not yum. It's this, nobody wants to eat that. No one wants to eat that. What people would rather do is, hey, do you want this protein shake? It's delicious. And it's going to get you where you need to go. And it's going to give you a six pack, if that makes sense. So it's like, I don't want this broccoli. I want this protein shake that's chocolate flavored, that's good for me, and I like it. Does that make sense? So there's certain things that certain markets will be attracted to, and there's certain things that certain markets will be absolutely repulsed by. Keep that in mind. So leading with your regular offer is not usually attractive to a large portion of the market. A large portion of most markets see direct offers as that broccoli that they are, it's probably valuable, but I don't really want to have it. It doesn't look like it tastes good to me. So keep in mind that based off the internet stats, at any moment, only 3% of the market are looking to buy, 90% are unaware, 4% of the people are problem aware, and only 3% of the people are solution aware. And of course, we love going to the small percentage of the market that are most aware, because it's very easy to sell them stuff. We can just say, hey, do you want to buy this? Like, oh, I was already looking for it. It's very easy to sell to those people. But the thing is, all of the scale is in the 97%. It's a much larger market that is going to allow us to scale much bigger. So if you optimize for getting those 3% of people that are already looking to buy, you will get sales, but it also means that you're leaving 97% of the market completely left out. They're completely ostracized. So what you can do is drive leads with a valuable thing that gets everyone to respond, or a large percentage to respond, add them to the pipeline, and then nurture them into buying your high ticket stuff, or hit them with a lower commitment front end offer, which I'll talk to you more about in 1 second. Because what you need to know here is that in any market, like I said, there is a portion of people that are unaware. So for example, they might have a problem. For example, they might have cancer that's growing that they can't actually feel, that they're not aware about. So if you're going to market to this person, the way you need to do it is, hey, what are the symptoms that they could be feeling, but they don't know about, they're not yet aware about, if that makes sense. So you need to provoke them to think about if they have a problem that could be revealed. The second one is problem aware, which means they might have a pain in their back. That would mean that they have potentially a tumor or whatever it is. So they know it's there, they can feel it, but they don't know the solution. They don't know what the problem is. They kind of just know it's there. And you might say, hey, do you have a pain in your lower back? It might be X, Y, and Z. And you can market to them that way. Then you might have someone that's solution aware, that they have a pain in their back and they know they're going to need to go get it checked out. So then you might ask them, hey, are you looking for a solution to X? You might have someone that's product aware, that have pain in their back and they know they need chemo and they're kind of just shopping around in a few places, but they're unsure. In that case, you can just give them the offer. And for people that are very aware, they're shopping around for a chemo vendor and they're looking for just to get a deal, you can just give them the offer. Very simple. So you can see that when people are in these different stages of awareness, you need to market to them differently, and that most people in the market are in a stage of low awareness, because why are people going to pay attention to you? People are busy. They've got different stuff to do. They're not going to always be aware, I forgot, I need to pay that stranger John. Of course not. It doesn't make any sense. So what we want to do is, instead of just marketing to the small amount of people that are aware, we want to address each of these different types of people differently, being aware that most of our scale is going to occur at the lower levels of awareness. So most of the money in the market is at the lower levels. So to solve this, what you can do is appeal to a larger market with lower levels of awareness and increase your prospects' awareness with the offer that you create for them. So this is the real crazy stuff. You can use an offer that targets the specific low end of the market and use that offer to increase the prospects' awareness with the offer. So you literally use the offer as a mechanism of increasing awareness. So that is actually how you build trust at scale. The key is, instead of trying to give people broccoli or trying to repackage our broccoli as ice cream, what we do is we give them an entree or a front end offer that gets them in the door. And then once they're in the restaurant, we can sell them almost anything. So the question you might be asking is, what is a front-end offer? So a front-end offer is an offer that is specifically aimed at creating the maximum amount of customers, the maximum number of customers. So that means it's usually got lower friction to purchase. So that means that many people are interested. So more people than usual would be interested. The reason this is so effective is because the easiest people to sell are people who already trust you. So if you imagine, if it's a freezing cold day and your hands are so cold, think of your hands on a cold day. Trying to move your hands when they're freezing cold is so difficult. You don't want to, they're kind of frozen up. There's no energy there. And then think about when you go inside, you might put them on the fire, you might get a hot coffee, hot cup of hot chocolate, whatever it may be. As soon as your hands warm up, it's very easy to move them. It's very easy to move them. And the lesson in that is that if you go ahead and start trying to change these people that are cold leads, they're freezing cold, they're very brittle, they're not going to be able to move. You're not going to be able to move them. It's just too difficult. But if you have someone that's warm, it's very easy to move them. So it's very easy to persuade them. It's very easy to say, hey, I think this is valuable for you. And they have that trust there. And the thing is, the best way to build trust or warm these people up is to deliver on claims and promises that you make. But here's the other thing, is that it's very hard to trust someone making a big claim when you have no past experience with that person. So what we do is we offer them something that is low friction to consume or no big deal. You can make a micro claim or a small claim, then you can deliver on that claim and then make a bigger claim the next time that will become more believable. So this is kind of high level stuff. It's a little bit wordy, so I understand if you don't know what's going on. The key here is that your offer has to be extremely low in activation energy. And what I mean by activation energy is that it is incredibly easy to engage with or get started with. And it also has to be high in value. So it can't take too much convincing to buy, and it has to be a very low level of commitment. So if you think of a front-end offer, think of it like a coffee. So people already buy coffee, so it's low activation energy. It's $5. Most people love it. It's really easy. It's really cheap. You can see a coffee store and say, oh, I could have a coffee. Low activation energy. So you go to the store for a coffee, and then some people, or percentage of the people that end up buying a coffee, might go ahead and buy a cookie. They might go ahead and buy a muffin, whatever it may be. Not everyone is going to go and buy that stuff, but everyone gets the coffee because it's the thing that has the low activation energy. It's low friction. So what you need to know is that this front end offer has to be a ridiculous level of no-brainer. Because if you think about a cold person, someone who's not even thinking about you, they have no trust at all. They don't know you. They don't like you. They don't trust you. If anything, they probably resent that you're interrupting their day. They're basically in a zombified state. They are literally focusing on everything except you. You have stolen a sliver of their distracted attention for a microsecond. So why would they pay attention to you? The only way is to get you to give them something that would literally be crazy to say no to, because they have zero level of care about you or anything that you represent. So the only way, you have to give them something that is so ridiculously valuable and is so abrasively valuable that they would be dumb not to engage with you. So this is even something that could cost you money, but it will be worth it, trust me. And let me explain the exact economics of this. So what you can do is you can see the cost of delivering your lead magnet as a part of your cost to acquire a customer. Typically, we want to shoot for a cost to acquire a customer to LTV ratio, that's lifetime value, of at least 1 to 3, meaning that you want your LTV to be at least 3 times your cost to acquire a customer in order to be profitable long term. So if you charge $5K per month, I'm not saying that you have to, I'm just saying this is an arbitrary number. You could charge less than this, you could charge more, and your average customer stays for 10 months. So your LTV, lifetime value, is 50K. Therefore, your CAC, or cost to acquire a customer, can be up to 16.6K. That's 1/3 of 50K. So knowing that, you know you can spend up to 16K to acquire a customer to be profitable. So you can actually spend money fulfilling a product for that prospect in place of a massive advertising cost. So instead of going ahead and spending that $16,000 on ads and a sales rep and all this crazy stuff, you can just deliver something crazy valuable for $3,000 of fulfillment costs. And you can know that of these people that I do this $3,000 fulfillment cost for, 50% of them turn into a customer. So 6K is your total cost to get one customer, because you deliver the free thing that costs you $3,000 to 2 people, because 50% of them convert, you can see here. That means my total cost to get one customer is 6K, 2 sets of free work. But I know that customer is going to be worth $50,000. So here, I've spent 6K to acquire a $50,000 customer. I'm very, very happy. And the beauty of this is, because you're delivering something so valuable, this $3,000 fulfillment cost, because you're delivering something so crazily valuable, of course they're going to want to engage with you, and your advertising costs are going to be lower. And this is literally the thing that makes it absolutely impossible for anyone to compete with you, because you know that you can literally spend thousands of dollars to get a customer to like me. Just to get them to like me and engage with me, I can spend $5,000. So that's crazy. That's you might do months of free work. You might buy them a Prada bag. You know what I mean? You might give them a gift. You can do a lot with 5K. But caveat here is that you have to know your numbers. So this number might be $50. It might be $150. But the more you can spend, the better you're going to do. Something to note is that Jeff Bezos scratched the marketing budget to give away free shipping. How much do you think it costs Amazon to give away free shipping? That is absolutely insane. So they scratched a lot of the marketing budget, say, screw that, let's just go give away free shipping. How much is that going to impact our marketing when our product is so good and our offer is so good that people just have to talk about it? So if you can do this and you can actually spend so much to acquire a customer, you're going to elicit so much goodwill in the market, and you're just going to have so much force behind you that it's going to be very, very difficult for people to not pay attention to you. And at the worst case scenario, they don't buy from you. Do you think this person that you gave free work to is going to hate you? No, they're not going to hate you. What you can do is you can just ask, hey, if it's not a good fit for you, do you know someone who is? So all of a sudden, you're building this goodwill with 50% of people, and you're getting clients 50% of the time. That is only a net positive. So note, when you are doing this method, you might quote unquote accidentally give some free value to someone who's lower intent and might not be as qualified. But now at least you can have a level of interest from someone who you can add to the pipeline and drive value for them to potentially convert later on. So the worst case scenario is they don't buy from you now, but they might do it in the future because you gave them value, and you also elicit goodwill into the market. And the best case scenario is they buy from you. So it's a win-win. Some other examples here are Dollar Shave Club. So Dollar Shave Club actually gained fame with low-cost subscription models for razors and other small products. Their initial offer was just a razor for a couple of dollars a month, which attracted a huge customer base. And then from that huge customer base, they actually sold a ton of other products once they had established a distribution network from their customers. So you can imagine they grew a massive email list, they had a bunch of phone numbers, they had a bunch of people that had previously bought from them. So when it was a matter of selling things to these people, it was a lot more simple than going ahead and selling something to absolute cold people. Other examples such as B2B lead generation, you might offer a personalized market report, you might offer a white paper, you might offer a done for you setup for free or at cost. You might offer a CRM audit. You might offer something like this. You might offer a software tool for a B2B lead generation agency. Or if you are a software tool, you might offer a live demo. You might offer an audit of whatever process you assist with, or you might do the process for them for free. Or you might offer to pay them $200 if they don't get result. This is just riffing. So the key here is that you need to offer something that is inherently valuable to a large percentage of the market. So note here, the reason this works so well is because a large percentage of the market said raises for $2 a month, easy. The only reason this would work is because people say, oh, CRM, I know I need a CRM. That is inherently valuable. This is inherently valuable. These two are probably less valuable. A live demo is less valuable. You really have to make this crazy, crazy valuable so you can give ourselves or yourselves the most amount of opportunities to sell to people that know, like, and trust us. So what we're doing in this process is we're giving so much value at an economic cost, at a cost that makes sense economically, which is really important as well. And then basically just figuring out how can we sell to these people and give ourselves a process to go ahead and continue that. So you might be wondering, why would we not just make this no-brainer offer, the front-end offer, the same thing? So why don't we just have one offer instead of having a front-end offer and a main offer? So the key here is that there's a tendency for this front-end offer to end up targeting a big problem to solve rather than a really narrow problem. So if you give a massive no-brainer offer as the main offer that you offer as a company, you can slip into a trap of delivering something for a really long time that has really high costs and high risk of not being able to fulfill it. So for example, if you're saying, hey, we're going to go and add $10,000 a month in new revenue for you for absolute free, that's a really difficult thing to do. It's going to take a lot of work, and you have a risk of just taking forever to do it, and you don't actually end up succeeding. So what you want to do is go ahead and solve something that's really small or narrow that you can do very quickly, cheaply, and predictably, but something that might not make economic sense to build a whole company off it. So what you want to do is just use this as a spearhead. It's kind of like a Trojan horse. Then once you're inside the doors, it's much, much easier. And again, just a reminder, the reason we're going heavy on this front end is to create warm leads. So you're not looking to do anything except create a warm lead that knows, likes, and trusts you without losing too much money, or even taking a profit. So if we can go ahead and take a profit from getting these customers, we can basically get paid to get a lead list. So typically you might go ahead and buy a lead list, but if you can get paid to create a lead list with something like this, you're going to do very, very well. So something to note is that sometimes people's entire business models allow them to maintain their main offer as the ice cream or the front end offer, but it's quite rare. So an example of this is Zenefits, who you can look into with the greatest comeback in tech video. That's a great video. Or Alex Hormozy, he had a gym offer for $100 million offers. But all that's happening here a lot of the time is that if you're just giving a bigger claim, it's really just appearing low status, especially if you're trying to give someone broccoli rather than trying to give them something they want. So trying to give away something nobody wants is it's kind of the reason that people's outreach is perceived quite badly. So we need fast, actionable value to be able to pierce through, and then from there you can go and make moves. So how do we find out what this offer is? That is the question. So how do you find out, what do I want to sell? How do I give fast value? What you need to do is to start with the who. So the who is important first, because if we don't know our niche, how can we create an offer that targets their exact problems, and how can we find a narrow problem and target the messaging and target the content to address those exact problems and capture the attention of the niche? And then how can we create a funnel that will be compelling and get the people in that niche to take action? So what you want to do is, number one, create a niche development protocol, because if a niche isn't worth targeting, we are literally just going to be wasting our time forever. So then you basically weigh up each niche. Do I want to take this niche, this niche, this? You basically need to find your most profitable customer and then purely target that singular customer. Then you need to define that customer and say, okay, this is my guy. They're 20 employees. They're in the accounting niche. They've been in business for 10 years, most likely in the CFO role, and we can target them specifically. What problems do they face? And then once you've got that niche and you've got that defined, you want to go ahead and define, number one, a narrow problem. Because like I said before, if it's not narrow and the scope of work is going to be too large, then it's going to be too difficult, and it's going to take ages to get your money back on whatever advertising method you're using to get them in the door. Then you want to pick something that's hyper valuable to solve, because then you're going to build the most amount of trust in the shortest amount of time. Then you want to make sure something is low to medium cost of goods sold and also deliverable very, very quickly, because like I mentioned, it has to economically make sense. If you can't make this front end offer make economic sense for you, you're not going to be able to scale it. And the whole point, which was to get more leads, is going to be thrown out the window very, very quickly. And you also want it to be deliverable fairly easily and fairly quickly. Within that just means that you're going to be able to have a high amount of revolution where you're getting these leads in, you're closing them as customers as soon as humanly possible. You also want it to be able to be operationalized, because this is going to contribute to a lower cost of goods sold, and done with AI and a VA. So if you can get this done, where all of a sudden you have this thing, the COGS is going to be so low if it's operationalized and done with AI and a VA, and you're going to be able to do it very, very quickly. So all of a sudden you're going to be looking very, very good. Then you want to make sure that it's easy to consume, because if you spend all this energy trying to make a lead magnet or a front end offer that people really, really need to consume, and then it's not easy to consume, it's obviously going to be tough to actually get any clients from it. And again, the entire purpose of the protocol was to get more leads that can actually buy your stuff, not to get more leads that just don't want to talk to you. So that's pretty stupid. Then something you really need to note as well is that it has to be very, very high quality. So this front end offer has to absolutely solve that narrow problem that we defined a few seconds ago. It has to be a complete solution to a small problem, because otherwise it's just a waste of time, and then you're going to be added into the group of all the other goobers in the market that just have no idea what they're doing. So you have to make sure that you don't waste anyone's time, you wholeheartedly solve one singular problem, and then you do well. And then the next step is just to transition to a sale, because like I said, the whole point of this wasn't to have fun or do whatever. The whole point of this was to get a sale. So we've created this warm lead, and then you want to make a process to create the sale. So next step, the main offer. So you've got this front end offer and you've got the process of transitioning to the sale. You've got all this stuff defined. Now it's just a matter of making the main offer. So first off, again, you have to start with the who, because now, the reason being is because if you founded a kebab shop, you want to ask yourself, what would the fastest and most efficient path to creating a successful business be? Would it be to make the best kebabs ever? Would it be to recruit the best chefs? What if Gordon Ramsay himself was the one cooking the kebabs? You don't know. Would that guarantee me success? You don't even know. What if you had the best pricing model, or you had the best chips, or you had the best bonuses, or you had the best Sprite? It doesn't matter, because the truth is that none of these would even come close when compared to putting the kebab store on a corner next to 3 pubs. Because as soon as the drunkards walk out at 2 a.m., they don't actually care where the meat came from. They don't care if it's good or even fast. They don't care who's cooking them, and they don't care what price they pay either. They are starving, and they just want any solution that's available. Even when they're eating it, they're going to say, oh my God, I can't believe I'm eating this. This is terrible. I don't even know where this came from. And then they still eat the whole thing, and they're still pretty happy after it. They're still like, it was pretty good. So the only way to find a problem this strong would be to actually go out and start talking to these bar goers and finding their pain points. So that's why we need to start with the who. We can find out, hey, what's actually the situation? What are you struggling with right now? What's the problem? What's something I can fix for you? And then all of a sudden, at some stage, you can say, fire out, I'm starving. I would genuinely eat anything right now. Because if you wanted to look at the basic building blocks of a startup, the team, the product, and the market, these are the basic building blocks. I would literally argue that these are similar to if you were playing paper, scissors, rock, except if paper, aka the market or the who, was allowed to win every time. Because when a great team meets a bad market, the market wins. When a bad team meets a great market, the market wins. So the team doesn't really matter that much compared to the market. And when a great team meets a great market, something absolutely crazy happens, which is a reference from Mark Andreessen's 2007 blog, which covers this topic in detail. What you need to know is that without knowing the ideal customer, you can't know what you're delivering, and therefore you can't determine pricing, features, or how to sell potential prospects. So the entire company falls apart. And the other thing is, if you pick the wrong market, your company is going to be bottlenecked from the start. So basically, the market or the ideal customer is going to determine the solution, the pricing, the acquisition channel, and also the team. Because you can rebuild a team to suit a market, but you cannot rebuild a market to suit the team, if that makes sense. So the market is going to be the thing that impacts every other variable and is the key to either success or failure. So it's basically a higher point of leverage, and leverage is just a word for tools that amplify your efforts than any other factor. So the market is the key here. Because the second that you stop selling or get disconnected from the market, that's the second you start dying, because the market can actually move. So you need to look at the who's booking the calls, and you look at the who, and then find out and directly figure out exactly what they want so you can deliver them something of high value. So when you do this, you're determining, number one, the current state of the customer, so their current metrics, their cost structures, their current tools, the tech they're using, their beliefs, their current frustrations, etc. And you're also going to try and figure out the exact desired state. So what they want, what's their ideal cost structure, what's their ideal activities, what are they looking for, what are they looking to evolve into. And then once you have all this information, it's fairly simple to go ahead and create a core offer, because you just give them the transformation they're looking for. You make a claim, you tell them what they're going to get, the exact benefits, you tell them exactly how you're going to do it, and you're going to make them sure that you're going to get them there. So you can actually make a guarantee that they're going to get it. So what you also need to remember, that when someone's purchasing something, all they know is some benefits and basically what you told them on a sales call. So if it's a service, it's very difficult to know what they'll actually get if you're delivering a transformation. So you want to make them absolutely certain that they're going to go ahead and get this. Something to note is that what you are doing with your offer is you are taking someone from their current state that you defined back here. So you define their current state, and you are taking them from their current state to their desired state. So this is either going to be towards pleasure or away from pain. It's a key difference. So when I'm looking at offers, what I want to know is that my offer is a direct response, quote unquote, from what is going on in the market. So I want to see what's happening in the market and then make a response to what's going on there. So the offer is directly derived from what's going on in the current situation of my ideal customer, if that makes sense. So to give you some examples, oh my goodness, the formatting is absolutely shot. Goodness gracious me. So to give you some examples of some winning offers, here are some. So how everyday men are transforming their bodies in less than 12 weeks to look like shredded movie stars. You've got here, use our ad tracking and AI to increase ad ROI for info, period. How I built a $4 million store in my first year with zero experience and only $300. And getting people to your website and turning them into happy paying customers is what we do best. So there's some winning offers. So they're delivering transformations that the ideal customers want. So info products and business owners, regular people looking to build their bodies, people looking to start a business, and people looking to run a business and start a website. So something that you have to note here is market sophistication. So when you're the first to market and you have a new claim, you can say something like, hey, here's the transformation. Here's what you're going to get. Then the second to market must be an elaboration of the claim. So here's what you're going to get, and the thing is better. Then at this point, people are kind of sick of this thing and they need a new mechanism. So the third to market basically has to have an emphasis on the new mechanism. So, hey, here's what you're going to get and here's how you're going to do it. Then the fourth to market is going to be an elaboration of the mechanism. So it's going to be, hey, make 20K per month doing dynamic copywriting is the third. And then the fourth is going to be, hey, make 30K per month doing dynamic copywriting. Then after that, at the elaboration of the mechanism, that eventually gets burnt out. And at the 5th level of market sophistication, basically you have to identify with the prospect. So Leo Moore endorsed, make 20K per month doing dynamic copywriting. Now, like I said before, you don't really ever want to compete. So how to never compete on an offer, you have to merge sales, marketing, and product development all together. So it's likely that you are the founder. So you need to go ahead and listen to people on sales calls and use that information to inform what you're doing with your service and with your marketing and sales. So in sales, you are running discovery calls with the prospects and finding out what their burning fears and desires are. Then in the marketing, you are testing the angles to resonate with your ideal customers. And then in the product development, you are molding the product into what will sell and resonate with the market the most easily. So then you use the sales and marketing to develop the product as you go, so you find product market fit and get your customers flying in left and right. Then, in terms of how you're thinking about the offer, you want to think, have I ever played poker? Maybe yes, maybe no. So what you need to do in poker is see the market. So you need to match the market and then raise the market by 1 to make it better than anything that exists. So for example, if your entire market hates oranges, you might go ahead and raise that market by saying, here's how to satisfy your need for vitamin C without eating oranges. So you can see how that's a direct response or a direct raise compared to what's going on in the market. The gap between when you make a claim and when you deliver on this claim. So for example, if you don't know how to do this, there's going to be a massive delta that you're going to have to push through and figure out how to do this. So you need to use your mechanism, use your process, use your guarantee, and use potentially performance-based results to convince people to sign up with you rather than someone else, because you're going to need proof that it's going to work and you're going to need to reduce the risk. At this point, we have the leads, we have the lead magnet, we have the front-end offer, we have the main offer. We need to basically just find people to sell to. So the way that we sell to people is we use a diversified cold email system that's going to allow you to send 5,000 to 15,000 emails per month at about a 60 to 80% open rate. So the way that you do that is you need to buy 50 to 100 domains. That's a website. So if you imagine softwaronsolutions.com is a domain, then we go ahead and buy getsoftwaronsolutions.com, or we go ahead and buy trysoftwaronsolutions.com, and 50 to 100x of those. Then on each of those domains, we want to buy 2 inboxes. So on each of those domains, you might have Leo at getsoftwaronsolutions.com, and then you might have Leo M at softwaronsolutions.com. So then you have all of these, not only domains, but also inboxes. And then you can go through a 14-day warm-up period where you're sending proxy emails to every single one of those inboxes. So all of a sudden, instead of sending 10 or 15 emails from your main inbox, from your main domain, which is likely going to lead to you getting burned and your domain getting burned and all of your emails going to spam, which basically destroys your company's reputation, what we do is we buy a bunch of burner domains and we spread out the sending so that each domain acts like an individual person. Because the main thing you need to think of when you're doing email deliverability is, what would a regular human do? A regular human would not send a bunch of emails from their main domain. That's spam. They're going to basically copy paste an email over and over and over. That's very spammy. So what you need to do is diversify the sending and only send between 25 to 50 emails per inbox per day. So by getting all of these extra inboxes, that means we can get results like this. So we can send 50,000 emails and get a 3.81% reply rate. So that reply rate is a little bit low because the volume was a bit higher, but you can see here, you're getting a good amount of leads there. Then you can send 42,000, you can get a 15% reply rate, 16% positive reply rate. You can send 22,000, get a 11% reply rate and a 11.85% positive reply rate with an 80% open rate, 76% open rate, and you can see here how the stats look. So once you're sending 25 to 50 emails per inbox per day without getting banned, even with 100 inboxes at a low volume, you can send 2,500 emails per day. That means you're going to get 125 replies per day. Then you're going to get 15 to 25% of those replies being positive at KPI, and then 15% of those 125 would be 18.75 positive replies per day, and you're going to hope to book at least 30 to 40% of those. So 30 to 40% of 18 is about, that's 7 or 8, you might get 5, 6, 7 or 8 calls. That's at KPI, and you can ramp up to this within 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks. Pretty straightforward stuff. When you're doing this, the 3 biggest levers are deliverability. So if no one else opens your email, obviously nothing else really matters. People in the space that I've seen have about 10 to 20% open rates, and only about 1% of those 20% are replying. So basically all of the emails that they would have bought, scraped, and cleaned are getting absolutely wasted because no one opens them. It's an absolute waste of time. Note that if you are tracking open rates though, sending softwares install a small invisible image that is basically going to reduce your deliverability. So you only want to track open rates if you're specifically assessing that metric for a purpose, for example, A/B testing subject lines or doing a deliverability audit. But typically you want to see above 60% open rates as a minimum KPI, and anything below that is an absolute concern. Then when it comes to targeting, if your ICP is off and they don't want it, there's absolutely no point emailing. So you'll need to find 50,000 to 100,000 email addresses of your ideal customers per month, because what is the point of emailing unqualified people that aren't going to buy your stuff anyway? That's what most people do, and most people suck, so don't do that. Then when it comes to copywriting, you want to make sure these things, so relevancy, you want to make sure you have social proof. You want to make sure you have a no-brainer front-end offer that delivers fast value because they don't trust you and you're interrupting their day. Then you want to make sure that your copywriting is targeted to your ICP. And then you want to make sure that you're running a bunch of split tests to find a winning angle so you can scale a campaign positively. So the way that you find a winning copywriting campaign is by looking at the stats. So here we can see that the emails in letter E are way, way better than the ones in B. So in B, we had a 4% reply rate and none were positive, versus in E, you had 6.6% reply rate and 24% almost were positive. So it's really, really key that you're running these tests. And then we can look at E and say, let's scale this campaign and try and make other campaigns more like it. And let's just cut campaign B. Then once you have these leads, so you have these people that are interested, it is your time to invite them to buy from you. So if someone's consumed a lot of content, it's great, and that'll be really easy, but sometimes they haven't though, and you'll still need to sell them. So what you want to do is drive traffic to extra content. You want to have things like a long form sales letter. This is a long presentation, much like this one, that is going to take them through your process and sell them on each step of the way. Then once you have that sales letter, you don't want to essentially let no one look at it. So you're going to need to drive traffic to that sales letter, and you're going to need to make sure that that is getting used in the best possible fashion. Then you're going to have sales. So in the sales process, you're going to need to make sure that your speed to lead when people submit interest is really, really high. So you're going to need to help them consume the content or the offers in their own way, and give them special direction to the offers and the content that is relevant to their situation. If the offer is enough of a no-brainer, they will engage, but you need to make sure if someone replies to an email, if someone submits interest, they submit a form, you need to be calling them and emailing them as fast as humanly possible. So what you want to do is you want to set up a CRM because lead slipping through the cracks is just a phenomenal waste of time and money. And you can use something like an automated follow-up system that we've got here that basically does all of that automated for you. Then what you want to have is a sales process and a sales funnel that makes sure that these leads are getting nurtured. So you don't want them to come to the calls very, very cold. So what you want to do is you want to have a VSL for your landing page. You want to have supporting sales assets on the landing page and funnel, and you want to have a post-booking VSL as well. So if this process is something that resonates with you and you can imagine it having a noticeable impact on your business, book a call and I'll run you through a personalized game plan, whether you want to use it to get traction, raise another round of funds, add 1 million ARR in 12 months, finally get a winning system to turn strangers into customers, or all of the above, then this is something we might be able to help you with. Book a call and we'll see if it's a fit. Basically what we do is we implement this entire system in your business with no retainers, guaranteed ROI, and we can help you through the entire process and basically hand you the keys to the Ferrari and just say, hey, here's this Ferrari. We just built this for you. Please take our Ferrari. And you can basically just go and use that to go and get your next sort of million in ARR. So if that sounds interesting, book a call and I'll look forward to chatting to you.